In person. Have I called you any pet names?
Child.
That's more of a, a little joke.
That's the only one you called me.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Talking to you guys about Married at First Sight, Miles and Karen, saying that Miles is finally frustrated and fed up. You understand? In this episode, I saw some glimpses of the fed upness, you get me? So if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads, and for those of your returnees, you got the minerals, you got the minerals. Hey, don't forget as well, grab one of your merchandise, send them back to the manufacturer. We appreciate you guys, stay locked, stay loaded. Let's get into it. So, I think we're starting to really see the frustration of Miles starting to really kick in. I'm probably going to drop 3 or 4 parts of this video because there's so much to deal with. But I really do see Miles' frustration beginning to kick in, okay? The excuse of we're moving slow is no longer working for Miles.
Yeah.
Just until maybe after final decisions are made, you take off intercourse.
Okay, I think one of the interesting things that I kind of clocked or saw was one with Dr. Viviana conversation, and also one where they were having a conversation about pet names, right? Where they had a bowl and they had questions in, etc., etc. So let's just deal with Dr. Viviana and then come on to the pet names, and then we'll kind of dissect it a little bit. So what I really found interesting is normally it's what people are not saying that is always very interesting. For instance, when we look at the Dr. Viviana situation, I was a bit concerned, number one, that Dr. Viviana said, let's just take sex off the table. I was concerned. Why? Because we're not dealing with the issue. What we're doing right now is kind of doing makeshift and make do, rather than actually dealing with the core issue at hand. There is something wrong at the moment with the Karen and Miles situation in terms of the speed that Karen wants to go because of the way that she addresses certain issues.
I feel like it's going to come across like there's a wallop when there isn't actually a wallop. You're on the same team. Maybe
It's not a problem to go slow. I don't have a problem with going slow, but going slow also comes with the fact that there is actions on your end that you're willing to do. But you can see definitely that whatever Karen has experienced past is coming into the present, because the way she feels about PDA, the way she feels about physical touch, the way she feels about emotions, the way that she feels about even giving pet names, all of those things make her feel cringeworthy. Now,
Like, hey, my little scuttlebutt.
Hell yeah.
Oh my God.
that should tell you that let's deal with what has happened. Let's deal with the way that your mind frame works so that Miles can have an understanding. Let me tell you something. Arguments oftentimes happen when people do not understand other people. It's that simple. When I don't understand you, I will fail to give you much leniency and leeway because I don't understand you, and I will think and I will assume you're doing it on purpose. Do you feel what I'm saying? And that's where we're starting to see the frustration from Miles, because I can't go talk to Viviana, right? I'm talking to Dr. Viviana and you, Karen, and then Dr. Viviana's like, oh, let's just take sex on the table then. Let's just take it off the table. And it's like, yo, you're not solving the issue of intimacy here. You're not solving the issue. And I'm not saying, again, coming from a Christian point of view, we're never not meant to be having sex before marriage. So I'm not talking about that. I know what a relationship looks like without sex. Do you understand? And that's why I'm telling you that it's odd to be like, okay, fine, sex off the table, I get it. We're not including that right now. I get it. But the way you deal with questions of intimacy from your partner, the way you deal with actions of intimacy from your partner is concerning. Why are we not dealing with these issues? Look, for someone to not be so touchy-feely here, I said it from the last few weeks, there potentially could have been an intrusion. And when I say intrusion, that just means there was something that's happened that has changed the mindset. Yeah, and I always term it trauma or abuse, and the reason why is because those are the things that fundamentally change the way that we trust, feel, think, move, talk, they change us because we've experienced something drastic. Do you understand? Yeah, whether it was childhood, whether it's a past relationship. Do you know what I'm saying? And I know many people have commented saying, why do you always say about her past relationship? It's because it's the way that she talked about the relationship, that there was many other things that were happening, but it was the baby and the cheating that done it. And I was like, so what are other things that happened in a relationship? Because you said it wasn't going great before then. Do you see what I'm saying? And let's say even from childhood, something might have happened childhood-wise as well. But something has definitely happened in the past to make you anti the way... Look, some people don't like necessarily to be too physical. You understand? We get it. Some people don't like to be too physical, right? But she's... At one point she said, oh, you know, she's not... she said she's not anti... like physical touch. She's just, you know, she's gonna get there basically, you know, like she's trying.
That I take things slow, and like these aren't things that you may get from me initially, but they're not things that I'm like completely against either.
Trying to get there, right? And I was like, okay, if you're trying to get there, that's not a problem. That was like weeks ago. In this particular episode, she said something which was really, really odd. It was like, not that she's trying to get there. I think there was an if in there, and I was like, whoa, what does that mean? Like, hold on a minute, sis. Like, are you there or you're not there? Do you know what I'm saying? When they were talking about pet names, for instance, yeah. When they were talking about pet names, she was like, "Oh, do you want me to call you? Would you want me to be calling you a pet name, etc., etc.?" And it's like he just said that like a second ago, and the reason why she repeated that, "Oh, would you want me to call you a pet?" is because she wants to say, "Listen, I'm really not got comfortable with that pet name stuff." Like. And that's what I'm saying to you. It's not one, it's two, it's three, it's five. There's like so many different things that are showing that there are intimacy deficiencies. So here's the thing that I like to bring solutions, not just bring problems to the table or highlight problems. The solution here is to get to have these two need to get to a place of conversation where the conversation gets deep beyond just I want to touch you. There has to be a going back, whether that's the therapist, whether that's Dr. Viviana, whether that's whatever. Someone must be including this, because since you put on the show Married at First Sight, you are onus to step in now, use these experts to say, hey, let's go back. What's going on with you? Yeah, you're scared to be hurt. No, I get it, but you're anti-intimacy, so it's not just hurt. There's something else that's happening. We don't necessarily need to know that. Miles needs to know that. Do you understand? Because the way that Miles is going to react is going to let us know that he now knows that she's gone through something terrible. Now, she doesn't have to confess that on TV. We don't need that. But that will come through your actions. I always say this, listen, you can't hide who you are, and you can't hide the truth. It doesn't last long. Okay? If you lie, it won't last long. The truth always comes out. You understand? And so when you're withholding parts of you, we can also see you're withholding parts of you. Do you understand? In the way that she's dealing with Miles right now. Okay, so, you know, and that was Dr. And the way that she smiled when they said, oh, so let's take sex off the table.
Yeah.
Just until maybe after final decisions are made, you take off intercourse.
And I was like, okay, no, just deep it. No, just deep it. If this is really about trying to grow in intimacy, and you want to wait longer, etc., etc., why is there a smile? Like, it was really weird. Like, it was just like the smile was like, yes, finally, da da da. But it was like, it's not just the sex that's a problem. You're not talking about intimacy on a physical nature part. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, when he brought it up to you and said, how do we get there? You turned it off. So this smile from me then was like, okay, I don't think this girl wants to go there at all. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, as much as she might have said, you know, how she feels attracted to him, da da da, something is not quite right. You understand? Something is not quite right. You understand? And I saw Miles' frustration in that conversation, because when they said it, and here's the reason, and here's the thing, I have sympathy for Miles in not being able to say it at this point. Here's why. Once the expert says, okay, look, do you know what? I think we should probably just take sex off the table. I thought it was a lazy answer. No beef with Dr. Viviana. I am not an expert. I haven't got my degree. I haven't got a PhD. So listen, but I felt like it was a cop-out. It was an easy way to get out of a conversation rather than dealing with the core issue of the person suffering a deficiency in intimacy. But let's take it off the table. And then you saw Miles' face, right? He agreed, but couldn't say nothing. Here's why. The authority figure in the conversation, you don't look like you're a pest for sex. Nobody wants to look desperate for sex. whether it's your need or not, him speaking up at that point could have been contrived or seen as being desperate for sex and not really thinking about the relationship. Do you understand? Right? But this wasn't a Michael and Mecca situation from last season. This is meant to be a situation where both parties said they really like each other. Well, Karen says she likes him later on, but you know what I'm saying? Meant to like each other, and then obviously now what's meant to happen is obviously it's meant to be progressive, but it's been really slow on this part. Okay, so now for him to go and say something, he doesn't look like he's pressuring her. Similar to what Brett said about Olivia, he doesn't look like he's pressuring her. And then to say that in front of an expert, it just looks bad. Oh, look, look, with all due respect, Dr. Villalba, I disagree with you. I actually really think that we should be discussing. Like, the only way he could have saved this is if he went into psychology mode and said, look, I really believe that we should be discussing the reasons why she can't be really intimate. And I think that would make me understand why we can't go there. That would only save a grace, because if you're not articulated enough, if you're not knowledgeable enough in that area to be able to express that in that way, in that form, it's going to come off looking like you're just desperate for sex. And so I do understand the reluctancy of him to say anything, but his face couldn't lie. His face could not lie. His face told us straight away, bruv, I'm not happy with this. I'm really not on board, but I gotta do what I gotta do. You understand? Yeah? And so then later on, what was interesting was when they were talking about pet names and they were sitting there talking, it was really interesting. And the reason why it was really interesting was because you know, he said obviously he likes calling her pet names. What he said about head, he called her this, whatever names, right? And then he's like, what names? And then notice what he says.
Called you any pet names?
Child.
That's more of a, you know, a little joke.
That's the only one you called me.
Okay, I don't even go too deep in it, but notice what he says here. He says, oh, you know what? The only name that you say is child. Now I hope, when she said child, I hope she meant child as in Chile. When I say Chile, it means child. Like, we take the piss. Like, it's Chile, it's child. Like, child. I hope that she didn't mean child. You understand? Yeah, I hope you didn't mean child. I think she did mean child, because the way that he addressed later on, saying about the age situation, that he doesn't like being triggered by that. But, the way... I hope she didn't mean child, because if she meant child, then again that's that belittling there. And I'm telling you about the whole thing of the refusal to want to get close, because that would be her saying that would be truthful, one, but two, also distancing, trying to make sure he doesn't get too close. By calling you a child, I'm trying to put that distance between the two of us. Do you feel what I'm saying? And so that's what I'm kind of seeing. I'm like, as people are talking about, as I'm seeing Karen and Miles talking there, I'm like, you know what I mean? And then so you watch his face expression. Watch his facial expression when he's talking about it, and when she says obviously that she's not sure if she wants to even do the pet name thing, whatever.
Begin. Oh Lord.
And then watch her face. She starts to cringe the fact that he wants to do pet names. Let me tell you something. Something is not quite right. Listen, don't get it twisted. Listen, look, people don't always grow up in the best of ways, in the sense of that they have had the love and the cuddles and the soft nature of love, right? So a lot of us black people can experience harsh love, right? And assume it to be the love that we actually resonate with, right? But that's all we've ever experienced. But there's just too many things adding up. Emotion, can't do pet names, can't talk intimacy, you know what I'm saying? Doesn't really like to compliment him. Do you know what I mean? Like, can't touch him. Like, all of these things would add up to someone saying, I don't think she actually really likes him. Not only that, and the reason why I say that again, to kind of bring a bit of evidence to that, is when he said, obviously, I feel like I'm thinking about 8 weeks.
I'm thinking beyond 8 weeks, right? And so I think it's hard to balance, like, oh, do I push here so we can get clarity, or do we just take it slow because we have a lot of time?
I mean, for me, it's hard because I'm like...
I think I'm thinking about beyond 8 weeks. She didn't affirm that comment. What she said was, oh, you know, she affirmed that the fact that getting to the deadline day, right? She said along those lines, you know, I'm thinking about how to be strong and confident so that when the deadline day, we know what we're going to say. So she...
How do we navigate that together and be comfortable with each other, but still make sure we feel like we have enough confidence in our decision on decisions.
She's not thinking about beyonding. She's thinking about just getting to the 8-week day and being able to be confident to say, yes, this is what it is. Because she's not confident. Why? Because she's not convinced. Do you feel what I'm saying? Right? Her idea of things, her idea of what a man should be for her, it's not Miles. You understand? It's not Miles. Because she's not thinking about after 8 weeks. She's thinking up to 8 weeks. Do you see the difference? My man said explicitly, yeah, I'm thinking about, you know, sometimes I get in my own head, I'm thinking about past 8 weeks, I'm thinking about what we're going to do after. Yeah? And then you hear her say, obviously, yeah, I'm just thinking about, I'm thinking about how we're going to be confident on deadline day. Wait, hold on a minute. What? Blood, like, you're still not convinced. So that's why you're saying what you're saying, right? People on Love Island are thinking about after the island, and you are still here, married, and you don't think about after 8 weeks. Do you see what I'm saying? That's why I have a concern and an issue with that. And I saw Miles' frustration in that, and his facial expression told the whole story. He just looked fed up at that point. Right? I think he's starting to deep it that it's not going the way that he thinks it should be going. You feel me? So for me, watching that, I was like, okay, cool. I'm seeing Miles starting to creep up a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? And then when he and another thing, how he passively spoke about age, or I shouldn't say passively, he brought it up. So he spoke about the age situation. What
I don't want to say it triggers me, but does make me feel like some type of way is thinking about how like people make such a big influence on like what age is, you know?
What trigger would make you feel most insecure, basically, yeah? And then he went and said, one of the things I've been thinking lately. I want you to understand what the English is saying there. The English is saying right there that, listen, my guy is saying, I've been thinking about you. Oh, nah. I've been thinking about it for a little while. This isn't something that the question has brought up. I've been thinking about this for a little while.
The things that I've been thinking about lately that I don't want to say it triggers me, but does make me feel like some type of way is thinking about how like people make such a...
So there's a behavior that's been going on, and listen, watch what he says. He goes, you know, it's the age situation that when people dismiss him for the age situation. And he said, and then she said, obviously, have I made you feel that way? And he said, no. Obviously, I'll prove it to you that obviously that's not the case. Number one, I don't think he's saying the full truth, right? Because and the reason why I say that is because what he explained later on. When she said, obviously, have I made you feel like that? You know, or am I making you feel like that? He goes, no, obviously no, you know, I'll prove it to you. Number one, why are you having to prove that to her? Because she's making you feel like that. Do you see it? Like, your answer actually showed what you truly felt. Even though you said, no, I'm proving it to you. But why are you proving anything? Do you understand? You don't need to prove anything. It's because you're of a certain age that she sees you as in a certain way, and now you feel like you have to prove yourself to her. So technically what she said was correct. Like, am I making you feel a certain way? You should have said, yes, you are.
Do I make you feel that way, like when I like say that age is a concern for me?
No, just because I'm like, I'll prove that to you. I think more so like comments like, yo, you remind me of me 8 years ago. And I'm like,
well,
that I'm not you.
That has nothing to do with your age per se.
Yeah, but then you go on to explain, and then he says, you know, when you say things like, you remind me of remind me of myself 8 years ago. Let me be very frank with you. How many times in a relationship, ladies and gentlemen, do you say to your partner, you remind me of, no, jokes. You remind me of, you know, myself when I was younger. You understand, right? And what, like, maybe you might not, you wouldn't term it that way, right? You wouldn't explain it that way. You might say, you know what, in the past, I used to, maybe, for instance, when I speak to my missus sometimes, we have an argument, I'm like, do you know what, you know why sometimes I don't argue about certain things? Because in the past, I've dealt with that before. So I understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling. That is not the same as saying, you know what, 8 years ago, that was me, you know, that was a younger me, like, that is not going to be how I'm going to term it. Okay, at the same time, because it's an insecurity of his, because he knows that she has stated in the past, remember the jokes, listen, you've watched my videos, weeks ago, she has been saying, oh, you know, and there was a little joke that was saying, about his age, remember? And then he made a joke about her age being a cougar. So listen, age is something that is not just a number, it seems. There's something here, right? And so his insecurity is that he may feel like she doesn't look at him as an adult on the same level. Her truth may be also as well that she may see him as a younger guy and is struggling to kind of compute that into her mind. Do you get what I'm saying? And so they're both contributing towards this circle, which is how he feels towards the situation, right? And so yes, the comment of saying you remind me of myself 8 years ago. Yes, it will come across as if you're saying about his age. Of course it will. And you're basically saying that he's got a young... It sounds like you're basically saying he's got a young mindset. Now, she goes on to explain and say, it's not about age, it's about the fact that you're articulating yourself. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, Karen, but you're not actually... You see, you think that you're above and you're articulating yourself. Girl, you didn't want to talk about intimacy. You didn't articulate why. You didn't want to talk about sex. You didn't articulate why. You understand? You said that you don't do pet names. You haven't experienced emotion too much. You haven't said why. You understand? Like, so... Come on, like, you are not that far ahead in terms of these things. And again, it just sounded like you trying to cover up you saying that you felt like he was young. Do you know what I mean? Like, your explanation didn't fit. Didn't really make me feel confident.
Reaction from, like, times where I felt like you weren't fully articulating like what you wanted or needed. Like, it's okay.
I do believe that Miles is a bit of a people pleaser, but I don't even want to say people pleaser. This is one of the points that she made, and I do agree with her. I wouldn't say people pleaser. What I would say is I feel like he struggles to be able to tell her the full truth of how he feels, based upon the fact that maybe whatever's happened in the past, maybe as a kid, he's not been able to express the truth in it. He's not been able to express truth that is difficult. You understand? He can talk about emotions all day, but maybe doesn't feel comfortable because maybe he feels like he's got a good thing. He's got the big fish. Don't want to ruin the big fish. You understand? Don't want to break something. Scared of losing something. Doesn't say the fullness of his truth. You understand? Right? Because in several points, like I said, the sex situation that was with Dr. Viviana, he could have said something. But he didn't, and I understand why, but he could have said something, and he could have said something weeks ago, and even Dr. Carr had to push him to say something. The pet name thing, I knew you could have said something there. Even now, you know what I'm saying? So I can see what Karen is saying, that you're not being total with me, in a sense of you're being too nice. I do believe this is Miles though, he's being too nice. What Miles is like, similar to myself. I do these nice things for you. I expect that you would be also switched on, self-aware, that you would also want to replicate what I'm giving you, right? It's when, again, this is stuff that is out of childhood, when you're used to not saying what you want, right? Because you feared in the past of when you say it, you get rejected, yeah? So in the past, when you've said something, you got rejected and it hurt, and maybe it's happened once or twice, you've learned how to not say how you feel and just do how you feel, and you expect and hope that the person will reply, right? In what you...
Like something about me or like things like that. So that wasn't more so from just like a
number.
One. Trouble is, we're human beings, we don't read minds. So what has happened is that Miles is failing to explain how he feels because he's used to doing something and then going and silently expecting a return on the investment. Do you feel? You know what I'm saying? Because these are things that he should be saying but won't say because he's used to doing something and then hoping and praying that the person will understand the expectancy of him doing an action and then wanting a replication. Do you feel me? So that's why he's not saying anything, right? But one must undo that. You have to get to a space where you're actually communicating. And listen, I've been there. Not even been there. I'm still there. I did. You know, when I'm talking with my missus, I thought I was a very good communicator, but she's more vocal with what she wants and what she needs. I am less so. I wait till it's about to explode, then I go, listen, I don't like this. Do you know what I mean? Or unless it's very, very dangerous, then I'm like, listen, no, I don't like that. Like, relax. Do you know what I mean? But when it's the smaller things, I may not say it. Almost like I don't want to be a nag, right? I don't want to be a burden on somebody. Do you understand, right? And again, that comes from childhood where you're used to moving in silence, being seen but not heard. Do you understand? Being seen but not heard. And when you have that kind of mindset that you're being seen but not heard, you're not used to communicating and saying what you want, right? Because you've been told that part of you should shut down. You shouldn't want what you want because you've experienced rejection. Again, this is very key and important to understand. Do you know what I'm saying? So he needs to work on that part, right? So actually, I agree with her. He needs to be more vocal in that aspect, and that will start to push the relationship in a better direction for himself, because he's able to articulate what he wants and what he doesn't want, what he likes and what he doesn't like. And sometimes a nicety can cover up the fact that you're unable to explain and be able to communicate how you actually feel and what you actually want. For instance, the whole situation with her not coming home, right? He could have apologized and then said, Karen, just to be very, very frank and clear, let you know that what you did was not acceptable. Do you understand? You left me with anxiety, and obviously it says that I'm not trying to make you feel emotionally like blackmailed or anything, but I want you to understand that is unacceptable in a household. So as much as I did what I did, you leaving for the whole night, unacceptable. He hasn't done it, but he was cussing to Woody. Do you see it? So you can do it. Do you see what I'm saying? You can do it. You choose not to do it because it's not in your training. It's not in your DNA. But you have to be very conscious of it and override it. You get me? So pull up, skirt, reverse. Alright? So that's our part 1 review. We're going to do another part 2. We're going to go through